Just arrived into Milngavie at the starting point of the West Highland Way. For the next 8 days we're going to be walking 96 miles from here to Fort William. Here we go. We're on our way on the West Highland Way. We've just left Milngavie and today is a 12-mile day to a place called Drymen. It's meant to be quite an easy day today, across farmlands and roads and country lanes. The hard work doesn't start until a bit further on. We've actually been planning to do this trip since 2019. Originally we were going to do it in 2020, but then the pandemic hit and everything got disrupted. But we've managed to come out this year and we're joined by two of our friends, Clare and Eilidh. So I'm really looking forward to it. My bag is feeling a bit heavy at the moment. I think it's about 16 kilograms. I haven't weighed it though, but hopefully it shouldn't take too long to get used to it. We've been following this gravel track for about 4 miles now. We've been going at quite an easy pace, so it's been a couple of hours. We're not in any rush today, but up until now we've mostly been going through farms and forests. But we've just reached the point where it's opened up and now we can see mountains in front of us. We're just about past the halfway point and we've reached this cafe called the Beech Tree, so we're going to stop here for lunch. Okay, we finished our lunch and now we are back on the way again. It's about 5 miles to our campsite in Drymen, so we should be there within the next couple of hours. The campsite we're staying in tonight is pretty much the first one that you come to as you come into Drymen. So it's where most people stay on the first night of the West Highland Way. There's not really anywhere before that where you can wild camp easily, but if you walk further, there's quite a few places where you can wild camp. So we've just arrived at our campsite in Drymen and finished setting up our tents. The walk today wasn't actually too bad. It was a little bit tough initially, just getting used to carrying that weight on my back again. But once I got used to it, it was pretty easy going. The terrain wasn't too challenging, it was pretty flat the whole way. We were mainly walking along gravel tracks and tarmac roads, so it wasn't really too difficult. Apparently it gets a lot tougher from here though, so I'm glad we were eased into it before the difficult bit begins. It's about 4 o'clock now, so I think we're going to head into Drymen town and go to the pub.
Day one done!
Good morning. It's our second day on the West Highland Way, and it was a little bit of a chilly night last night. I think it got down to around 4 or 5 degrees, so we ended up having to put all of our clothes on to stay warm, but I managed to get an okay night's sleep in spite of that. So yeah, we've just had our breakfast and a coffee, and now we're just getting packed up and then we're going to get on our way.
Rolling's the new folder. That's what I've heard. Who did you get the gas from?
Today's route is a bit longer than yesterday's. We're doing about 14 miles from Drymen to our campsite in Inverarnan, and in about 4 miles we should reach Kinlochleven, which is where we get our first glimpse of Loch Lomond. We're now at the base of Kinlochleven over there, and we're just about to start the ascent up to, I think it's 361 metres. I don't know if this path goes all the way over the summit, but it gets pretty close. So we just reached the top of that ascent. It doesn't take you all the way up to Kinlochleven. I think there's a detour coming up where you can go to the summit, but we're going to continue along on the West Highland Way. And Loch Lomond has just come into view in front of us. We just stopped for lunch in Balmaha at the bottom of Kinlochleven, and now we are on our way towards Loch Lomond. and I can see the shore coming up just in front of us now. So that is Loch Lomond next to me, just through the trees, and we're going to be hugging the shore of it for the next 2.5 days. We've just arrived at Loch campsite where we're staying tonight. It's a little bit short of Inverarnan, but we are right on the West Highland Way. That is the path there. And then basically this campsite is kind of almost wild camping. So you can pitch a tent here, but there's also a space at the loch side where you can also pitch your tent. The facilities are pretty basic here. There are composting toilets and drinking water, but there's no showers or anything. But if you need a wash, you can just get in the loch. So yeah, we're pretty exhausted after today. So we're gonna get our tent set up now and then have our dinner and then have a relaxing evening. How's this for a tent pitch? What a view to wake up to in the morning. The midges are out in full force now and eating us alive. So I've put my midge net on. But yeah, it's getting a bit much now. They're all over my legs. So I think we're gonna head back into the tents. Good morning. It's day 3 and we've just set off for what's likely to be the toughest day on the West Highland Way. Today we're walking from our campsite at Loch to Inverarnan. It's about 14 or 15 miles from campsite to campsite, but there's supposed to be a lot of up and down, and there's one section where a lot of people give up because it's so tough. So we got that to look forward to today. I'd highly recommend the campsite that we stayed in last night, but be warned, if you're here during the summer, the midges are going to go crazy by the side of the loch. So bring your smidge spray and a midge net. We just got our first rain on the trail. I feel like 2 days without rain is pretty good going, so we were due some rain. It lasted for about an hour, but it's stopped now, and the sun's come out, and we're treated to these beautiful views across the loch. As expected, it's been a pretty tough start to the day. There's a lot of up and down, but these views make it worth it. Whoa. Whoa. Just stood in a muddy puddle. Oh dear. We've just reached a clearing, and over there is the cobbler. It's been a few hours now since we stopped for lunch, and it's been raining pretty much the whole time. We're in the middle of the tough section between Inverarnan and Inverarnan right now, and it's been pretty tough going. With the rain as well, it's just made it extra slippy because you're sort of scrambling up rocks and over tree roots and then down the other side, and just repeating that up and down. But thankfully the sun has come out again now, and look at this view. You just don't get this anywhere else. It's still a few miles to go. I'm very much looking forward to getting to the campsite, having a shower, and apparently this campsite has a bar. There's a ridiculous amount of bluebells down there. This entire side of the loch is just carpeted with bluebells. We finally said goodbye to Loch Lomond, which is over there in the distance behind me. And now it's starting to look a lot more like the Highlands. We've made it to our campsite, Benglass Farm. That was a long one today, almost 10 hours. Beer time, I think. That campsite was exactly what we needed after our tough day yesterday. It's called Benglass Farm, and it's got showers, a bar, a restaurant, a drying room, a washroom, and I'd highly recommend it if you're passing through Inverarnan on the West Highland Way. It's day 4 today, and we just set off from our campsite and we're walking about 12 miles to Tyndrum. So not as far as yesterday, but we are forecast quite a bit of rain today, so that's going to be today's challenge. Also, midge bite update. This is how much I've been bitten by midges, and this is even with smidge on. I've been bitten all over my legs, and that's even whilst coated with smidge, so I think I must just be especially attractive to them. I just wanted to quickly reflect on yesterday as well, as it's famously the most challenging section of the whole West Highland Way. In total it was about 15 or 16 miles, which is a little bit longer than we predicted, but it took a lot longer than we thought it would. With all this weight on our backs, all the ups and downs that we were doing just took so much longer, and it ended up being around a 10-hour day. So you can see why a lot of people drop out there. So I would suggest, if you're not sure about your fitness levels for doing the West Highland Way, maybe try doing that section on its own and see how it goes, because that was pretty tough. We're a couple of miles in, and it's been pretty easy going so far. The wet tent in my bag is weighing me down a bit, so it's not an especially fast pace, but the terrain has been pretty flat, so a lot better than yesterday. But just a few minutes ago we saw a farmer moving his flock of sheep with his 2 sheepdogs. That was really cool to see. One thing that I found really cool about doing this route is that you bump into the same faces constantly, either passing them or at the campsites. So it really feels like you're part of this larger community of people who are doing the walk. We've arrived at our campsite, which is a couple of miles short of Tyndrum. It was quite an easy day today. It was about 12 miles and roughly 700 metres of elevation, but it was either raining or looked like it was about to rain for most of the afternoon, so I didn't manage to film much of it. It's just stopped raining now, so we've just put up our tent and now we're going to head inside and make some dinner. It's day 5 and we just walked a couple of miles into Tyndrum to get our breakfast and pick up a few more supplies. Today is another relatively short day. It's going to be about 10 miles in total, so we're not in any hurry. We've just left Tyndrum and now we are walking towards Inverarnan, where we're going to be wild camping tonight. The spot we're planning to wild camp in tonight is a field just beyond the Bridge of Orchy Hotel. Apparently it's really popular with wild campers because the hotel will actually let you use their facilities if you make a donation or buy a drink, which we are certainly planning to do tonight. Another nice tent pitch for the night. So we just pitched up and now we are going to the pub. And just to add, I wouldn't normally pitch and then leave during daylight hours, but it looks like it's going to rain, so we just wanted to get our tent set up so that we can escape into it if it starts raining.
Fingers are so far away.
What an amazing camping spot. Even though there's a lot of other tents around, it's still an amazing place to wild camp. I highly recommend it if you're passing through. So we just got back from the pub and got into our tent, and now we are getting ready for bed. We just stopped for a quick coffee in the hotel, and now we've set off for day 6 on the West Highland Way. We're walking about 12 miles from our campsite to Kingshouse, across some of the most exposed sections of the West Highland Way. Apparently it's quite challenging when the weather's bad, but we're forecast really good weather all day. We've been walking through woodland for a couple of miles, and now we've just come out into the moorland, and this bit feels very remote compared to everything we've done so far. There's no other signs of civilization in any direction. The sun's really been beating down for the last hour or so in this exposed section, so there's not been any shade at all. But fortunately, it looks like we're starting to descend now towards Kingshouse.
Oh, should I put the door one in?
Day 6.
Complete.
Good morning from Kingshouse on our penultimate day of the West Highland Way. We just left our campsite and now we're heading towards Kinlochleven. It's about an 11-mile day today and we are crossing the highest point of the whole West Highland Way at the top of the Devil's Staircase, which apparently isn't as scary as it sounds. It's another hot one again today, with temperatures possibly reaching about 21 degrees. So lots of sun cream, lots of water. We've just reached the bottom of the Devil's Staircase, which zigzags up the side of the glen up to 550 metres. It doesn't look too bad, to be honest, but let's see how it goes. Okay, that's the top of the Devil's Staircase, the highest point on the West Highland Way. It really wasn't as bad as it sounds, but now we're going to go and look for a sheltered spot to have our lunch. So we just come down from the top and now we're following this long winding path down to Kinlochleven. It's really starting to feel like we're coming to the end of the West Highland Way now. From Kinlochleven there's just one more day to go into Fort William. We've just arrived at our final campsite in Kinlochleven and now we're going to enjoy our last night of camping on the West Highland Way.
Day 7.
Cheers!
Cheers.
Great.
Good morning. Today is our final day of the West Highland Way and we're walking the last 15 to 16 mile stretch from Kinlochleven to Fort William. We just started our day with a nice steep climb up the side of a glen. This is tough. But when you're treated to views like this from the top, you can't really complain. It's meant to be quite a long day today, about 7 or 8 hours. And I think it's going to be even slower going in this heat, but I'm appreciating every moment on this amazing trail. This is a very long exposed section, but the mountain views are stunning. Last night I managed to cut my finger pretty badly whilst trying to chop vegetables. But luckily Amy was on hand with our first aid kit and got it bandaged up. But that's a lesson in why you should always bring a first aid kit with you. You never know when you're going to need it. Been walking along this track for miles and miles, and finally Ben Nevis has come into view in front of us, which means we're getting close to Fort William. Been walking for hours and we're finally onto the final stretch. Just one more mile to go along this road and we've reached the end of the West Highland Way. We've done it, 96 miles.
Oh, interesting. Oh, I can feel that.
Ready?
I think it's a bitch.
One last cheers.
Get involved, Jamie. Cheers.
We've done it.